Sadashiva Samarambam Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Param Om Om Shanti 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 Om Namaste. Welcome. We are talking about the gunas on the 14th chapter. So we have seen that the importance of understanding our saguna nature so that we get a better understanding about our psychology, our tendencies, our mind altogether, né? And the body comes behind the mind. The mind is somehow the maestro, and the body is going to shape itself according to the qualities of the mind, let's say. There is always karma involved as well. But anyhow, we are understanding more and more about karma, and we understand that we, as spiritual seekers or inquirers, we have some sattva guna on our side. Yeah? So whether we have sattva guna, but following, following rajoguna or rajoguna, following right behind sattva guna, it makes a lot of difference. But the important thing is to be there, play with predominance of Rajoguna and Sattva Guna, leaving the Tamoguna, in its place, especially when we go to bed. And Swami goes about saying that if we prescribe meditation for tamasic people, they are going to enjoy that prescription. You say, "Oh, yes, very nice. I'm going to get a very nice, armchair and put myself, some guided meditation, some music, and I'm going to have a wonderful nap," because that's the nature of Tamoguna. So I'm saying, but there is some advantage in Tamoguna as well, is that the person somehow does not like to participate very much. And if the person does not participate very much, the person does not have to deal with results of actions because it plays very little actions into the Dharma field. So it's like, I just like to live like a pumpkin or anything like that, a vegetable or just a very lazy old cat. And then there is no question of dealing with results of actions much. So you don't have to pick up much papa, but you don't pick up punya. Oh, that's the bad side. If you don't pick up papa, you cannot pick up punya. So it comes in one single package. So if one says, I want to pick up punya and not pick up papa, you say you have to have a very, very well balanced or balanced personality, or saguna personality from the standpoint of the gunas, so that you can live a life producing good actions, I say dharmic actions, intelligent actions, which are going to bear some punya and papa, not only punya. There's no question of only punya. There will be always some papa coming. And besides, even if you would manage to produce only punya as results, you would be bound to punya, and it's the action that precedes the collection of punya. Therefore, punya, while alive, or punya, after leaving the body, going to these celestial realms, is not the answer. Because if you start having a very, very favorable circumstance in your life and it lasts, So you're gonna get used, you're gonna get attached to that, and you're gonna take it for granted. And then you're going to become weaker, and then when it comes Papa, you crash because you're no longer dealing with Punya Papa, you know. So it's all about bondage. Identification with our Saguna nature is always about being bound to this physical, subtle, material universe. Sattva binds one to pleasure. Rajas binds one to action, whereas Tamas binds one binds one. Let me just have something. Binds one to sorry to negligence. Again, Sattva binds to pleasure, Rajas to action, and Tamas binds one to uh, being negligent. So being lazy, procrastinating, and just uh, daydreaming is a good description of a tamasic person as well. Does not go much into action, but still it needs satisfy itself as far as its desires, you know. And then you have desires for certain things. You see people enjoying the TV and the movies, and then you start daydreaming, imagining things, you know, looking at others in your imagination. So those are the three gunas. Krishna here is repeating again and again the topic of bandhana pratyaraha, which is the beginning, in which the description of the gunas, and furthermore, on the second level, in which way each one of them binds the individual to samsara. So, so let's try to look into this concept of binding one to samsara. You know, how come whatsoever construct we have, whatsoever way we live our life, we are always going to be bound to samsara because fundamentally we are identified with our prakriti nature, which are my guna nature, my saguna nature, prakriti nature. The moment I'm identified with my body, mind, sense complex, which is my prakriti nature, you know, I'm identified with my load of vasanas, my bag of vasanas, my ragged veshas, my likes and dislikes, you know, what I want to gain, what I want to avoid. So the moment that I identified with my physical body, I'm identified with my vasanas. There is no way. You understand? Because the vasanas are the one governing the conscious mind through the body, the physical body. I identify with the body, I'm identified with my vasanas. And then my likes and dislikes, they bind me because I cannot control my parabada. I cannot control our experience. It's impossible to have a control over destiny. Moment to moment destiny, we have no control. And then the identification with the body, mind, sense complex is going to bring, how you say, is going to bind, yeah, once it's going to bring slavery or howsoever sometimes one puts it. Uh, why? Because immediately I want what I want, I don't want what I want. And that is a horrible setup, a terrible setup if one wants to suffer because we have no control. That belongs to Ishwara. You know, our Prarabdha is dictated by Ishwara, the intelligent, superior, supreme knowledge field. Yeah. So the thing is, if we identify with our Prakriti Saguna nature, we are bound to samsara, but not only because I take myself to be the body and my body is gonna die and then I'm in samsara. It goes much deeper into nuance, you know, because now I'm identified with my likes and dislikes all the time. And I'm freaking out if I don't get what I want. Yeah. Silently, mental, emotional disturbance, or verbally expressing it again and again, those disturbances because my likes and dislikes are not properly met, or physically, just throwing tantrums here and there because I'm not really getting what I want. All of that because we identified with our physical body, okay? Attached to a subtle body, attached to a physical body. The body-mind complex, the body-mind construct. I'm identified as the body-mind, and then I'm suffering. And here we are looking that the body-mind construct may be more of the nature of Rajoguna, more of the nature of Tamoguna, or more of the nature of Sattvaguna. And then one say, how interesting. So, and then we looking the definition of this guna, we're looking at the ways these energies, these gunas, in any case, it binds us to samsara, as I have just described, because I'm bound, I'm bound to my likes and dislikes, desires and aversions, you know, and then we are looking to that. Sattva guna binds, Raja guna binds, Tama guna binds, and then which one is the best one? The best one is Sattva guna, but binds, you know. Which one is the worst? It's Tama guna, but binds, and then it's a huge way to go from having tamasic kind of controlled or influence personality to sattva, sattvic pradhana personality. So fundamentally, each one of these predominance of gunas governing our prakriti nature, it doesn't matter. It's different types of desires and fears. Desires and fears is what binds us. Likes and dislikes is what it binds us. And howsoever the proportions are, we are bound because we identified with desires and fears, desires and aversions, likes and dislikes. And then why we are looking at this? If we all bind, so what I have to look into so many details? Because you need to understand your human nature, your prakriti nature, and you have to understand the value of the development of sattva guna in your construct. You need more sattva guna because sattva guna brings about more discriminative power. Your faculty of discerning the term, it grows and grows and grows. You become more and more wise, and then you need to develop more sattva guna if you want to bring about your superior nature, to use the word that Swamiji brings up again and again, you need to have the sattva energy because it's a superior. It's superior. Why? Because it's going to feed your intellect. It's going to empower your intellect. The intellect is the highest possible function, of our human construct. So we want to develop a balanced personality, having Sattva Guna at the command, Raja Guna coming behind, and then Tamo Guna on the third position, And it's okay in certain circumstances or stage of life. I have Raja Guna in front, I have Sattva Guna behind. The important thing is to have these two in the two front lines, so to speak. Fundamentally, each one of these predominance of the gunas binds the person because it attaches the person to what they want and what they don't want. Addiction, tendencies, preferences, desires, binding desires, addictions, and then what happens when you addicted to have something? When you cannot have it, you freak out and you lose it. You lose your temper emotionally and you lose your Viveka Shakti as well. Sattva guna causes addiction to quietude, as we have seen. So, no, but I'm not hurting anybody. I am addicted to profound silence. It's okay. I have been with American teacher in ali in California, né, in Mount Shasta, the last guy I have seen before self-recognition, that he was addicted to deep meditation, withdrawing from society. Even in his satsangs, he was mostly closing his eyes and not saying much. And you get addicted to silence, withdrawing from society. But what happens every time I used to visit him, because he wanted me to visit him, he would keep looking at my eyes, and then after 15, 20 minutes, exchange a few words, he would say, that's enough, that's enough. Let me go back to my samadhi. It almost felt like he was being disturbed because he's so addicted to be in that state of silence or samadhi or whatsoever that interact with someone, even someone he was so appreciative at the time, was meant to be a disturbance, you know. So addiction is the problem. You're addicted to sukha. So association with pleasure, you know, peace, tranquility, samadhi is the mode of bondage. Rajoguna, as we know, the person is addicted to action, karma. Swami says that doing karma is not a problem. It's if you do good karma, karmas, it's not gonna hurt anybody. But addiction to dharmic karma is a problem, you know. Enjoying silence is wonderful. My addiction to living in silence is a problem. Meditation is wonderful, but addiction to meditation is dependence. In fact, Vedanta goes to the height of saying that even addiction to scriptures is an addiction. So even addiction to scripture, to Vedanta, and the guru is still an addiction. That's why at the very end, the guru cannot help. The individual has to walk alone on his own, not doing its profound inquiry or nididhyasana or howsoever we want to call it. And and it comes a point that it's meaningless to run back to the scripture or to the audios or it comes a point that it's you with you, and then the scripture, the audios, the video, everything becomes a distraction. Now you have to really face yourself and try to get to the bottom of this inquiry and realize directly that you are limitless consciousness. So just listening to it is good at certain stage. So addiction to the scripture also is a form of addiction. Swami says, okay, but don't say, okay, so I'm getting into Vedanta, but now I hear that even Vedanta is going to be binding me. It's going to be an addiction, possibly, potential. I'm not even going to get into Vedanta, you know? So the same thing, you know, if all gunas bind me, you know, and then what's the big deal of trying to convert Rajoguna and Sattva Guna if I'm bound in any case? But we need to understand that everything has its stage. Adyarupa, apavada. In the end, we need to leave behind the attachment to scripture, to the guru, to those states of mind. No? But the tendency of the ahankara is say, okay, I always had this sense that I did not need any scripture, any guru, so I'm living. This is living prematurely. And who is living prematurely? The ahankara. Understand? The ahankara wants to get away because the ahankara feels always a little bit bad about himself because he needs help. One of the most prerequisites is humility to accept that I need help, as we see with Arjuna in the first or second chapter of the Gita. No, don't leave before you really got into it, before you did not form a proper value or interest or understanding, you know? You can leave after some time, halfway, but which is going to show that your ahankara somehow uh, took over the path, the journey. But in the end, the very guru or anybody will say, now you have to leave everything. And there is a saying in the Buddhist kind of circle that in which Buddha would have said, supposedly, that in the last stage, when you see me on your way, just chop my head, you know, just get the sword and cut my head. Why? Because in the end, you should not be addicted to any guru, any shastra, or anything, and you alone. You can be attached to God to a certain extent, you know, asking God to bless you with self-recognition, direct self-recognition, and so on. So we need to develop that detachment, you know. But Krishna wants to say that actions are okay. Addiction to actions is the problem. Silence is okay. Addiction to silence is the problem. You know, sleeping is good, but addiction to sleep is also good. The person dominated by tamoguna is a careless person. Uh, it's not very attentive. I mean, just imagine mind. He needs so much such vaguna to make a good reading of the situation and again offer its response, you know. But when you have a mind that is with excess of tamoguna, as I like to put, you can't make good reading of things, you know. You are misreading and then projecting wrong things, you know, because the misperception produce a non-perception, you know, produce a misperception, which is a form of projection. So all of that is due to tamoguna. Huh? So the person is like that. You cannot trust them to do any project on its own. The person will make mistake and so on. So pramada sangha, association pramada, or you can say nidra sangha also. This is for the tamoguna personality that binds pramada. What is this pramada again?
It's sort of heedlessness, neglect, things like that.
Okay. It's a nidra sangha. The person is dreaming, you know, I would say a waking dreamer or something like that. I just said the expression before. But anyhow, how does it cause that? By way of covering the clarity of think, definitely. Sattva guna is responsible for clarity. And then you have too much tamoguna going there, producing a sort of a thin veil, you know, a foggy veil on the clarity of the mind. It has nothing to do with cataracts in one eye. There is a veil in the mind so that the intellect does not see things as clearly anymore. Okay. The person is never going to be a good employee or forget about being an entrepreneur and being a business person, small business owner. The person cannot even be a good employee. It has to do some repetitive, simple work. So I'm now is going to begin the next file, reminding us of the Ahamkara is another name for the body-mind-sense complex. The body-mind-sense complex is made out of the five elements, which come from the three energies. Therefore, everything in Ahamkara is made up of these three energies. We can never escape these three energies. Our physical body is dominated by what? By Tamoguna. It's the energy that grossifies to produce our physical body, our gross body. So we have these three energies we see in our construct 24/7. Our Saguna Ahamkara. We are forced to live with our Saguna Ahamkara. And the purpose of these teachings is to help us to understand the nature of the Saguna Ahamkara so that I can handle it properly. I can develop a certain mastery over the Saguna nature, Ahamkara, so that I can use it to fulfill my purpose in life. If it is a spiritual growth, so be it. So I am understanding, and then I have to see. I need to develop some more sattva guna, and then I have to look into my lifestyle. It has to be, in a conformity with my goal. Now, my project is to develop some more sattva guna, and then lifestyle, and then all the time observing now the character or the personality, the nuance of during the day in which my mind is attacked by uh, Rajoguna, or Tamaguna settling in, and then, you start observing these things. Yeah. And why? Because I want to have a certain saying, a certain mastery. I want to be able to handle a little bit. I mean, I got this construct like that, and then I say, no, and that's it. This is my nature. This is my Saguna nature. I'm gonna die that way. So the scripture is saying, and it's easy for us to validate the statements that we are a flux like anything in the universe in constant change, and our free will allows us to somehow direct the change we want to implement in our Saguna Kara nature. Huh? First guna predominant, second in the middle, and third. Which guna is the lowest? Which guna is the highest? Okay. If you want to participate in a how you say, a dispute, it's not really sport, but nowadays people dispute anything. How you call dispute? There is a certain name in English. Oh,
Debate. Is that
Debate,
what
yeah, debate or discussion.
no, people do it. I think, let's see who runs faster. Let's see who eats more. Who speaks farther. Is a something that I forgot.
competition? Competition.
Now, there is another name, but competition is good enough right now. So
Okay.
we, if you would say, no, I'm dominated by Tamoguna. I'm good to go. So how are you gonna know you are the number one Tamoguna Ahamkara in the whole world? And then the person has to go to one of these competitions, The cameras are there and no drugs are being allowed. And then we're going to measure to see who can sleep more. Some people, oh no, he slept for 47 hours and 35 minutes and so on. So you can be the greatest in each one of these saguna, predominance or ahamkara. But we have to understand that there is not much into being getting the gold medal for the most sleeping person in the planet. So what are you gonna do with sleeping? You're just missing the opportunity to live and grow. Huh? So the same thing in Rajasic can make some disputes or competition or whatever, in which the person wants to prove that he can being active for 3 4 days in a row without ever sitting on anything, or a day and a half, or I mean, you can look into all those things, but yeah, there is not much point in sleeping or being active for so long, because it worns out your construct. So balance is the key. And in the same way, so I can go into samadhi and stay in samadhi for 3 weeks, 4 weeks, and so on. So, oh yeah, this guy won. He is the most sattvic person. He stayed in samadhi for 2 years. So it does not do much in terms of freeing the soul from the problem of identification with the gunas, with identification with its limiting nature, saguna nature. So we need to use all these three gunas and make it somehow to conform our aspirations in life, our desires for growth and so on. Krishna is state into an inquiry into the three gunas. The three gunas, the definition of the gunas, how we get bound by the gunas. And a mind which is predisposed to pursuit of knowledge is the mind that we want to develop, and we need more sattva guna at our disposal. Mind predisposed to peace of mind, silence, and together with very profound subtle knowledge, such as the knowledge of the true nature of the self. So, because if I'm only addicted to silence, and I'm not doing any inquiry, subtle inquiry at the end, I'm just bound by the experiential aspect of sattva guna. And if I'm only inclined to go for scriptural knowledge and academic knowledge, so it's still a lot of sattva guna, but I'm being bound to the cognitive knowledge base of sattva guna. I want to acquire more knowledge, but there is a vast difference, as vast as it can be, between academic knowledge, which is indirect knowledge, and direct knowledge, which is self-knowledge. So you want a mind that has the interest for knowledge in the beginning, okay? Because you want to get indirect self-knowledge. And then down the road, you have to break that tendency of indirect self-knowledge and inquire into the nature of the true self, so that we can get direct self-knowledge. So in each way, so even the scripture, Vedantic scripture, Upanishad, must be left behind, and the individual has to go for direct knowledge. So I make a small distinction. You are addicted to knowledge, and you addict knowledge without profound meditation, or meditation without knowledge, meditation without knowledge without meditation. You have to find balance between both at the end. Of course, we want to have a mind which is in the pursuit of knowledge, a mind that has its instruments of knowledge, yanendriyas, active. This is a sattvic mind. Rajoguna is said to the ragatmakam, which is a personality which tends to more and more action, dynamic personality, using the the instruments of actions more than any other thing. Therefore, predisposition for action. This is a Rajoguna person. Knowledge, silence, tendency is Sattvaguna. Tamoguna is defined as Mohanati Makam, which means personality who is always in doubt. This is another feature of a tamasic ahamkara. It's often in doubt, indecision, asking people, what can I decide? What can I choose? It is and that. The person is always like that, which is something that it's very, very present in some people we know. And it's always a mystery why this person has such a trouble of taking a decision, Because to make a decision, it requires that you ponder for some time and you reflect and so on. But there comes a point after a few minutes or a day or two, they say, okay, that's my decision. And once you take a decision, you never look back, But first, the person, a tamasic person, does not want to make a decision. And if it makes a decision, later on keeps looking back and he says, I shouldn't, or you shouldn't, and so on. So it's a way to stay stuck, frozen, procrastinating, in conflict between its choices, delusional. And if you try to help people like that, you may get in trouble because their confusion, their conflict may transfer to your mind as well. So it's so powerful, is their moha. The delusion is so powerful. The confusion is so powerful in some people that I have learned my lesson here and there. It's don't try to help people when they are at that level, because the person is going to resent you after all. You understand? He or she is going to resent you after all. And you cannot help. Therefore, it's better to stay on a superficial level, relating to person with love and compassion. But it's very difficult to help a person who has become too tamasic. So we have seen the definition, we have seen the way these gunas, tendencies bind us. I don't want to repeat everything again. I just, if something pops in my mind, I can just add something more. Another thing is a Rajasic person wants to interact with people. A Sattvic wants to stay in an environment in which it can meditate or study knowledge, learning. A Rajasic person wants activity and wants interaction, and usually is involved with a lot of relationships, has a network of connections with people. In the internet nowadays, it's so easy, So it's a person with a great network, extremely extroverted, And it may be good to make money and to find your way successfully in samsara. But if you want to find a balanced personality conducive to self-knowledge, you have to reduce this tendency to network with so many people, contact the telephone all the time, ping, 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 a lot of messages. And so balance, a little bit of reservation, seclusion, privacy, withdrawal, without addiction to withdrawal itself. Relationship takes a lot of energy. We know that. Relationships takes a lot of energy. On my own experience, I learned it the hard way. So with first I start moving away from all relationships. I accept only one relationship, which is a relationship, guru-disciple relationship only. Okay, with rare exceptions, of course. With my employee here, I have an employer-employee relationship, very beautiful, very good, free from conflict, based on practical things we need to keep doing here. That is valid. But if it does not have something very, very practical and necessary to it, it's better to avoid. So the good thing about having a relationship based on transfer of knowledge is good because there is no room for conflict. If I take a relationship, I took some relationships with my student, which they thought that they could teach me something or transfer something to me, exchange things with me, and then there is room for conflict, you know. It's okay if the person has knowledge about quantum physics or computer, that I accept. But when you start trying to teach, the student wants to show his spiritual knowledge, trying to exchange knowledge, spiritual knowledge with the teacher, and then that may become a problem as well. So whereas you just, I don't go into any dispute, any debate. I'm just unfolding the scripture the best possible way I can. And I don't exchange anything. I don't dispute anything, take it or leave. But with some people, rare people, or two, three, four people in my life, I have a certain degree of relationship, which is not based on teacher-student. Because the more we have social relationships are the problem. Social relationships, they're not practical, they're not necessary, but they are social because people, they say human beings are social beings. They have to be interact with others all the time. It's a setup. It's a source of trouble. Because you have two egos socially interacting, getting in a lot of disagreements about things, ideas, notions, opinions. And we have learned a lot in the past several years or decades or so that the world started being divided in terms of ideologies, political or any kind of division, and that start some fragmented small groups of people here and there. So it's conflicting to interact socially. Okay, we have seen all of this concept. Therefore, Sattva is also a problem. Our Sattva guna is the guna that feels the best. It's responsible for pleasure, sukham. So if you want to feel more pleasure in your life, so have a more sattvic personality and use it to produce silence and peace. There is nothing better than peace. So Sattva guna binds by creating saguna kara that experience this kind of sukha, which is peace, satisfaction, silence, lack of conflict, laughter, uh, lacking things, so mental disturbance, emotional, and so on. So sattva is the best possible one, but we have to be careful not to be addicted and dependent on the effects of a sattvic mind, which is a mind that is going to experience more sukha, more peace, more satisfaction, more contentment. A rajasic is going to experience pleasure and pain, pleasure and pain. The pleasure comes more as happiness, is, like that. Sattva is going to come more like a cool satisfaction, contentment, and so. But sattva can also produce more knowledge, more indirect knowledge, more academic knowledge, more scientific knowledge, more philosophical knowledge, and the person may remain as disturbed as a Rajasic person. But altogether, a person it becomes more and more disturbed to the extent that it wants to show its knowledge and stand behind its knowledge and to dispute its point of views with other. That can produce great disturbance as well. So the problem is not to have a disturbed mind. For that, I need to have a more predominantly speaking sattva guna, interest in knowledge, but not in showing my knowledge around, like people do that in the internet all over the place, but in enjoying the peace of a mind properly resolved by the meaning of sattva guna predominance, and using that sattva guna for this final inquiry into the nature of the self, into the nature of God. So anything may bind us. Tamoguna binds as well. Context. Context is the word I was looking before. Dispute. Context. Does it apply to what I was trying to say, the context?
context, context. Usually means something that's placed within a certain
No, not that
environment.
one. Contest.
Okay. Contest. Okay. Yes. Contest. Yes, that applies.
I like language, I like good words, but memory is not holding the vocabulary much anymore. Okay, the next stop, Swamiji, please, let's go. Let's move. Sattva manifests by overpowering Rajas and Tamas. Rajas manifests by overpowering Sattva and Tamas. Tamas manifests by overpowering Sattva and Rajoguna. So this refers to the third topic to see the indication of what kind of personality I have. But before entering into this third topic, Krishna he's taking a small diversion. Because Krishna considers this topic important. Therefore, he's making this diversion. What he wants to accomplish here. He say everyone is made out as these three gunas. The inert creatures of the world, such as clay and rocks, the mineral world, they are made out of inert beings, so to speak, or inert consciousness. So everything is born out of Prakriti. It has the three gunas in it. Even a rock, a clay, has Sattva guna within it as well, as we know. From the most intelligent human being, the most blessed thing of creation, every blessed thing in creation has Prakriti, therefore it has the three gunas. Okay, before we go there, I like this language, the way to put it. Sattva manifests. So how Sattva takes over? It takes over by overpowering Rajas and Tamas. So before he was using another expression that Sattva has to suppress Rajas and Tamas. So I like better the word overpowering, okay? Because it's just a question of light and darkness. You have darkness, you bring you bring a small candle, and then there is a small light. The small light starts overpowering, the space, it illumines, removing therefore darkness. Okay, so suppression is a word that has some problems to it, but overpowering is dissipates. Sattvaguna dissipates somewhat some degree of rajas and tamas, because it's responsible for clarity. Is the light, is the reflection of consciousness producing sattva energy. Rajas manifests itself by overpowering, sattva and tamas. So Rajoguna is taking over, and then it is somehow overpowering, and in this case, dissipating would not apply, but overpowering, or even suppressing again could be used. Rajas, takes over, begins overpowering, dominating or veiling sattva, and somehow giving a good kick in the butts of tamoguna. Go and move. Tama manifests by overpowering sattva and rajas. So I just want to call our attention to this word overpowering. Everything in the universe has the three energies, even the inert world of all objects, which include our physical body and our subtle body. They have three gunas. They're inert, but they appear sentient. We don't go there. But there is only one difference between human beings and every other thing in creation, which although it has three gunas, it does not produce, it does not experience sentience. The difference is all in the proportions of the gunas, as we know. Every construct. So what's the difference between I and my chicken? I have a subtle body, a physical body, and a causal body exactly like my chicken. But I have more Rajoguna operating in my physical body. No, it's difficult to say. I cannot run as fast as my chicken, So they have a lot of Rajoguna. They can jump and they can fly. They know what is to fight for their lives and so on. So I don't have more Rajogunas. No, we cannot do that. Say that. Do I have more Tamoguna? I don't know. It's pretty much even. Around 7, 8 in the night, they go to bed like me. And then around 4, 4:30, they wake up just exactly like my inner clock. So we have Tamoguna, we have some Rajoguna, but somehow our subtle body has much more Sattvaguna. And how can I say that? Because they are not as clever, Any little thing that I try to make to help them, it takes some training until they understand that this is the way to go. It's for your interests and so on, you know. So they don't have much clarity. The intelligence is rudimentary. So any human being has the three gunas. Every human being is a sentient being, such as my chickens, but there is a certain difference is found in the proportions of the three gunas. Proportions is never uniform, not even in between two human beings. The proportion was uniform before the creation. This is that concept that we have touched it already. Before the creation, there was a rest, like an ocean that somehow rests, and all waves and ripples, the ocean becomes like a lake reflecting the sun, the moon, and the stars in the night. So it's said that before the creation, there was a total equilibrium, you know? And in that equilibrium, there were no waves and ripples. And waves and ripples would go to the creatures, the living, the jivas, from the vegetable, animal, and human dimension. Yes, Lynn.
I was wondering, in deep sleep, do we have equilibrium of gunas also?
Yeah, that's a good question. Because in deep sleep, we experience a little bit on a private micro kind of level, as a prolion, you know, everything stops. I leave behind my physical body, my subtle body, and then it's said that I still have a deep sleeper body, you know, pranian, but it's I think it's as close as possible to total equilibrium. That's why we enjoy it so much. The moment that we wake up, what happens? I tried to have this conversation with Ranjit 10 years ago. He say, so when we are in deep sleep, we need to have a lot of tamoguna to fall in sleep and stay there. Say yes, and yet it's said to be the state in which you will experience bliss. Where this bliss is coming from? If in the deep sleep there is no sattva guna at our disposal to understand and know anything. You
I
understand?
bet it's lack of desire. There's no ahamkara.
Well, getting there. So it's not that I'm experiencing bliss, you know, ananda, due to a very, very clear and balanced sattvic mental state. I'm experience a bliss derived from total ignorance. You understand? So as we see in some of our texts or expositions, the problem is we are mixed up with knowledge, with sattva guna, and ignorance, tamoguna, and rajoguna. So if we are theoretically speaking, if we have a lot of knowledge enough to produce direct self-knowledge, and then we experience a mind which is dominate for much more peace and satisfaction. You understand? Because it is more balanced. But it's still awake. You know, it shine with sattva guna. The knowledge is firm, and there are very little mental disturbance. The nature of the thoughts, they are not problematic thoughts, generally speaking. So where does that bliss come from? From total ignorance, okay? Because we need to lose all our rajoguna, so to speak, most of our rajoguna and tamoguna to go into sleep. And then we see sleep, some more rajoguna start coming up. Those rajoguna converts into nidra shakti, projects our mental vasanas, our mental desires and fears. And then dream state subsides, and then again we go into deep sleep, in which there are no desires, exactly like Lynn has pointed out. There is no desire, there is no fear, and it feels so good, although we are in total ignorance. So there are two kinds of bliss, and I used to talk about that long ago, very much. I love to have this conversation, which there are two kinds of bliss. A bliss derived from total ignorance, such as the deep sleep, or a bliss derived by a waking state in which the mind is dominated by a lot of sattva guna, producing a reflection of consciousness which is as how you say, as identical as the nature of the original consciousness, meaning to say your reflecting medium, which is the sattva body, is more sattvic, such as a mirror, produce a reflection which is as close as possible to the original light of consciousness. So we experience a certain degree of ananda in the awakened state, to the extent that our sattva body is holding a certain domination of sattva guna. We're talking in terms of deep meditation, this and that. And during the interaction with day-to-day life, I have been thinking lately, so shall I try to meditate again, go into samadhi to see what happens? And somehow I can't, I say, well, what for? Makes no sense anymore, What for? What am I going to gain for that? But there is ananda, which is ananda derived from Atmayanam Palam, self-knowledge resolves the mind in a way dominated by more sattva guna, because the desires are burnt with self-knowledge. All desires, they are designed to try to complete the individual. So the understanding of one's true nature destroys the desired nature of the ahankara. And that is a mind which experiences a certain ananda as a result of Atmayana. And then there is a mind that experiences a certain peace by the means of yoga, meaning to say, due to vigilance and sadhana, discipline and control of the mind, you bring about a sattvic state, and you hold it hostile to you, and then you experience a nice reflection, but not naturally as a result of knowledge, but as a result of willpower. Okay. And then there is the other sort of ananda, which is derived by a total tamasic mind, which is ananda due to total ignorance. Okay, so we stop here, and I have a question for you guys. I don't have a question. I think it's going to be better. Today is Tuesday. Yeah, we meet on Thursday if you guys can. If you can't, we could meet tomorrow. Thursday? Okay, done deal. Namaste. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om. Okie dokie. See you later, alligator.
Thank you.
Bye bye.